Excuse? And then shares his he gives the consent to the University of Cotabato to share his degree certificate in a decentralized ID. But the second speaker, Achala, was telling that you should never kind of share that information in a blockchain. So we have kind of two kind of blockchains. One is a public blockchain, and another one is a private blockchain. So if you use a private blockchain, can you share this information with the student and the university and then other interested third parties? And this information is going to be kind of perpetual because once you graduate from a university, that university qualification is there.
So your question is basically whether it is safe to share this on a private blockchain? Well, I mean, I don't know. In my belief, you bringing a decentralized identity into a private blockchain would not make much sense. It would make sense only in a public blockchain to start with, because private blockchains are locked, and I mean, it doesn't give the right exposure to the blockchain, and it will not make much sense if you put it in a private blockchain. But on the other hand, I mean, if you are putting this information in public blockchain, say someone has graduated from a university and you want to have that claim with attached to your digital decentralized identity. So this would not put any information about where you graduated or who you are on the blockchain, right? So it will have some piece of information hashed and signed by the university, and maybe signed by yourself as well as the holder, and that signature might go into the blockchain. So it does not contain any of the information, but it has a signature or a hash of the information that you, that which links the student and the university. So that additional information could lay on somewhere else. I mean, it could be on IPFS kind of a distributed storage, or it could be even in your hard disk. But with the signatures, or maybe it could be stored with the university. But what you could do is, using these signatures, you can trace back, okay, the certificate that you are producing, say your certificate is a digital certificate, an XML file or something. So you can send this to the verifier and say, okay, this is my credential. So then the verifier could kind of follow the same process and make sure that the document has provided by the user matches with what has been signed and stored in the blockchain maybe 5 years ago. Right? So that's in high level, that is the process. I highly recommend you to speak to Malit. He's working on Diwala. That's the exact process that they are doing. So you can get more idea how exactly the process works, but it's not that you're putting data into the blockchain. It'll be a signature that you put into the blockchain after signing with both parties' private keys or something like that.
Actually, I got a more practical question rather than a technical one. So let's say you are using Uport. Is there any point that you need to spend some actual gas or either Ethereum or anything?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you want to transact, I mean, there have to have some certain transactions. Mm-hmm. For those transactions, you have to pay gas price.
So, how do you convince somebody to use this identification as they want to spend some money?
It's not like you have to always spend gas. It depends on the purpose what you're using Uport for. Like, if it's for a transaction, to initiate a transaction on blockchain or to interact with a smart contract, then you have to pay gas. Mm-hmm. So with or without Uport, if you have to do that, you have to pay a transaction. So for a off-chain claiming or verification, you won't need to spend anything, right? Yeah, off-chain. So it doesn't mean like if you are using Uport, like you have to pay anything.
Right. And the other question is let's say somebody wants to interact with this system, and they need to install all this MetaMask or anything that they can interact with the blockchain, right? Beforehand, they sign in or providing any certification or verifying any credentials. Is it something like that, or all the general public can just come and interact with these systems?
I didn't really get the question.
I mean, you are talking about the difficulty of like having the infrastructure ready
Yes,
for the
yes,
transactions.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's a global problem. Like I don't think that has been solved, but people are actively working on make this experience a better one, right? So, but I mean, I think it's the potential of the technology. I mean, even though there are so many difficulties, I mean, I think there are about 9 steps that you have to follow if you want to transact with the blockchain. If you are starting from nothing, and if you want to transact with the blockchain, like you have to create an ID, then you have to install MetaMask, then you have to get some Ether. With all that, I think 7 or 8 or 9 steps that you have to follow. But even with such difficulties, people are using this, right? That's the potential of the technology. It's a known fact. This process is not easy. You cannot, I mean, it's difficult at the moment. But people are still trying it, and people have not stopped building applications or dApps because of this reason. On the other hand, there are certain, like, even for the gas problem, like there are certain initiatives where there are relays, like, I mean, if an organization say, I'm hosting a dApp, I could go for a transaction relay and pay some gas upfront, right? Whoever the users come to my dApp, I'll be channel them through this relay, transaction relay. So from my account, they'll be taking care of the gas prices to onboard them into my dApp, right? So that such initiatives are there. I mean, the prices could come down, or maybe it could be like some what do you call new plasma kind of a network or something like that could solve this problem, and the price will come down. So there are initiatives around that. So which I mean, in one way to reduce the gas price, so take the gas price burden from the users, and at the same time to make the onboarding process easy. It's happening. Yeah.
Right. Thanks.
So, how do you look at some of the negatives of this, right? Things like terrorism, security, etc., all get kind of compromised. How do people take that on? Because if you're going in with a thing where you're not able to see who the back end person is, you can lead to things like terrorism and securities of countries, etc., which can be compromised. How do you tackle that problem?
Your question is, I mean, since there's no authority, how you would?
No, I mean, since there's no way to monitor who the person is,
Yeah.
would like terrorists, etc., not use this kind of mechanism to kind of figure out, what to do without them people actually tracking them down to kind of know where or what they're doing on the net?
I'm still not getting the question. I'm sorry.
No problem. So, I mean, given that here you really don't know who the end person is,
Yeah.
there would obviously be negatives, right? Because people like terrorists could
Yeah.
exploit this kind of technology for people not to figure out that it's them who's kind of checking certain things out.
Yeah.
How do you tackle that? Because that would be a big problem of countries.
Well, I mean, if you think that since, if I understood it correctly, like you're thinking that terrorists would have access to this information since no one knows who's accessing this information.
Exactly.
I think the problem would be the other way around. I mean, even terrorists would not know what to look into. You see what I mean? Because your anonymity is completely there. So you don't know whether you are looking at Donald Trump's account or not. You would not know. It actually helps the system rather than exploiting the system.
And like if there's central authority, like it's easy to like attack. Like if it's decentralized, there may be a lot of people holding their own identities, so you don't know where to attack. Like if it's Google, like you know where to attack, so it's easy.
Thank you.
With blockchain, I think there are legal aspects. For an example, suppose in some countries I think like they have to delete the health records in 6 years. They can't keep more than 6 years. So so what can we do about what can we do about like those industries? How can we like say like are we cannot use blockchain, or are there ways to use blockchain, like workarounds?
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to definitely, there are ways to work with this. Like, I mean, say if we think of a very like crude implementation, maybe you can store this data in a smart contract, and you will be encrypt those data, and probably the keys that you use to encrypt those data will be destroyed after 6 years, so whatever the time. So then, I mean, it may not be a practical way of doing it, but probably a workaround or way of doing it. That is one thing, and of course, I mean, even the data could be off chain and keys could be on the chain, or like you can have some sort of a time bomb or something like that, which basically the keys get destroyed again. So yeah, I mean, there I think those problems can overcome. But I mean, again, like don't think it will be like blockchain could be a solution for every problem. That won't be the case. So certain things would be there that better not use blockchain rather than using it.
Questions?
Yeah, hello, Achala. So you showed the demo. You logged into Promise I Will using the U-port.
Sorry?
You logged into Promise I Will using the U-port DID. So you use the Ethereum, yeah?
Yeah, so Uport is using Ethereum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you tackling the time? There is always a compromise between time and the security. In Ethereum, it will take around like 7 to 10 minutes to get into the transaction ledger. So how are you tackling it?
So logging into the system doesn't really need to be interacted with blockchain. So what it does is like it sends as you saw, it sent me a push notification saying that do you want to share that information? And I already had my identity created, so I said share information just for login purposes. You don't want to really interact with blockchain, so the logging in process won't take much time. But as you said, yes, like if you want to initiate a transaction and or interact with a smart contract, it will take some time to
Communicate with other nodes, yeah?
Sorry?
Communicate with other nodes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Test. Questions? Now since the mic is fine. Someone got to have a question. So then I guess we'll wrap it up.
Sorry, one last question. So let's say institute like provide you a certificate, or as they already given you a certificate, and let's say at some point can they revoke it or can they cancel it for some reason?
Yeah, there are processes to revoke a given certificate. Yeah, you have to
like-
follow a process which you can revoke it.
But when the data is there in the blockchain, you can't destroy it, right?
It won't be revoking. I mean, destroying the data. It would say it's not valid anymore.
Okay, so who got the authority to say that it's valid or not?
I mean, the issuer would have the authority. Issuer should be able to revoke it. Like in general terms, like if say a university grant you a certificate, I mean, offer you a certificate, they should have the authority to revert it back as well.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, in the protocol, I definitely read through this somewhere, but the idea is like, there's provision in the protocol. There's provision to offer it. I mean, reward it and revoke it as well. So you can specify a kind of a valid date or a revoke mechanism can be there, and then it can be revoked. Again, best would be to speak to Malit. He's definitely implementing that, I know.
Okay. No, actually, what I'm thinking is then, doesn't it, again, going back to the institution, the authority, the institute hold it, right? So isn't it like that? I mean, that's...
Well, I mean, it's like this. I mean, it would say that this institute issued this certificate on this day to this person. Right, that you cannot take off from the blockchain. That entry would be there. But if you really want to see whether it is valid right now, then there will be additional functionality to check that. So, right, then it will say, okay, right now it is not valid, but it has been revoked on this particular date, and this has been, yes, of course, issued on this particular date. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it really, derail the process or anything like that, as I understand. I mean, again, like there could be one particular very specific scenario which we cannot really be handled with blockchain. There could be. Thanks.
This is regarding the certificate thing. What happens when the original certificate itself get destroyed in institute? It's saving. I mean, it's saved on institute's hard disk, and at some point that data goes lost. So what happens? How we can validate that certificate is valid?
I mean, there's no way of reversing, like from a signature, you won't ever be able to create a certificate back. I mean, it's a one-way process. So, I mean, alternative would be certificate could be a public information. I mean, if you consider it as public information, maybe you can store that on IPFS kind of a place where guarantees its existence under any circumstance. That could be a possible way, but if you do not put it to a place like that, and if you keep it on your hard disk and somehow you get destroyed, there's no way of verifying that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Very good.
We'll love you to ask questions. So if not, we'll wrap it up now. But of course, the help desk will be there, and there'll be 3 different guys speaking about 3 different dApps. So take the opportunity, and of course, there's some food, drinks, refreshments. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. By the way, a small announcement. The Promise I Will, we are planning to use that for upcoming sessions, for you to kind of confirm that your participation to the event. So just if you have time, just get familiar with the process and ask any questions. I mean, that will help us as well. So it was a thought process. We just thought this would be the right process to implement this, and we did it. And we want to use it from next session onwards. So just try it out and give us any feedback. That will be really valuable. Thank you.